This is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Now, perhaps the third time was a charm. The U.S. Supreme Court decided this past week to uphold a ban on travel from several predominantly Muslim countries. That ban had gone through several changes because of legal challenges before getting to this point. The vote was 5-4, with the majority saying the president's power to secure the country's borders was not undermined by the president's history of incendiary statements about Muslims. Here's some of what the president had to say this week after that decision.
This is a great victory for our Constitution. We have to be tough, and we have to be safe, and we have to be secure. At a minimum, we have to make sure that we vet people coming into the country. We know who's coming in. We know where they're coming from. We just have to know who's coming here.
Here this morning to talk about this week's decision and what it might mean for the Houston area Muslim community, Arsalan Safiullah, attorney for CARE Texas, that stands for the Council on American Islamic Relations. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. From
the first time you heard that decision and now since you've had some time to think about it, what was your reaction?
Well, I was disappointed with the decision. Was I shocked? No. Was I surprised? No. We've seen a couple of decisions started to come down from this court, and it just kind of, but still caught us off guard. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of concern from our community, and so we're still dealing with it. We're not going on much sleep. We're still trying to figure out what this means next.
When you said some reaction from the community, what has that reaction looked like or sounded like from the Muslim community here in Houston?
Well, obviously it's a long Supreme Court opinion, so a bunch of them are still concerned what this means. They do understand that it's targeting Muslims, but let's say on a personal level, someone called me. They said their fiancé is in Libya. And he said, well, now is it kind of over? Meaning his relationship. So we still have to go look. So I told him, look, just send me all the facts and we'll talk about it. But from that's an actual personal story where it seems to be impacting someone in a very, very personal way, where he doesn't know if his fiancée will ever be allowed to come to the United States.
When the first time this came out, the president made it no secret. He said, we have to, call for a complete ban of Muslims. How did that impact you as a community at that point in time when it said that all Muslims not being allowed to come in the country?
I mean, it sent a shock through the community just to hear the actual words where he said, I'm calling for a complete shutdown of Muslims coming to the country. And that's, 1.5 billion people. So, that also showed us that it is a Muslim ban. He can try to keep on changing it. Giuliani said that they're going to try to change it to make it legal. And it seems like that's what they've done.
Well, look at the countries that are impacted now by the ban. We're talking about Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, North Korea, and Venezuela. And your sense is that North Korea and Venezuela were just tossed in there to kind of make it more, quote, legal, as you said Rudy Giuliani was being asked to do.
Well, exactly. So let's say North Korea. Not many North Koreans come here to begin with. We get a lot of people from South Korea. So that's a red herring. And in terms of Venezuela, if you read the actual language, it only applies to certain kind of government officials and elites. Mm-hmm. So it's not a complete ban. It's all a very small segment. So basically, it's a Muslim ban. That's what he intended. So I'm taking President Trump to his word. That's what he said he wanted. And that's what he got. But of course, they have to make it legal.
Right. And now the Supreme Court has said that it is something that he can do. The biggest concern from your community, and what can you do as an organization that CARE is responsible for, American Islamic relations. That's what it's all about. Now your challenge is what?
Well, so look, from our perspective, this is not the end, right? There's different means as well. We can talk to our politicians, we can vote in the elections, we can do mass mobilization, just as we saw with the kids at the border, right? There wasn't really a judicial solution. It was more the Americans thought what was going on was wrong. And so we plan to use similar tactics, and that's just the American way. Hopefully this decision will, in the future, be seen as a bad decision. And we'll use the means that we have.
Do you understand how some might still have the opinion they do about Muslims, because of the extreme part of those in your faith who have done what they've done throughout this country and the world?
Well, of course, look, we're not blind to that. And in terms of national security, that's something that we are extremely concerned about as well. And with this decision, we're more trying to focus on what he exactly said. And that's what the dissent in the Supreme Court opinion also said, that he wanted a Muslim ban. And that this is based on discriminatory intent. So for us, it's a lot like Dred Scott is for African Americans, or Korematsu was for Japanese Americans. Where it's true that if you look at just the words, that it seems okay, there's a national security threat and concern. But if you look behind it, there's a discriminatory intent.
Korematsu, of course, when Japanese were interned in this country during World War II, and the Dred Scott decision, of course, as well. At some point, I know that in history has shown that sometimes even when the Supreme Court makes decisions, they end up, while they may be, quote, legal, they may not have been right. And so is that kind of what you're hanging your hat on now in terms of trying to go back and prove that the decision might have been the wrong decision to make and maybe make some changes to that?
Yeah, exactly, for sure, because it's a lot to do with what he said. It changes how we're perceived in America. I mean, I'm not just talking about people from overseas, though we're concerned about that. I'm talking about children here who are raised here, that it changes the perception of us as a community.
And you as an American, when you are an American and you are a Muslim, what kind of mindset do you have? If you're walking around and you think, well, okay, the president has said that my religion has kind of tainted me. I mean, I've heard that from friends of mine who are Muslim.
Well, of course, I mean, that's what Muslims are thinking. Now, Houston, thank God, is a diverse place. We don't feel it as much in Houston, but of course, that's on the back of your mind. If someone is an American and they don't know if they can bring their fiancé over, then they're not treated the same as everyone else. And so we don't feel that we are equal in that level. Now, Trump had previously said that he didn't want this ban. He wanted some of the previous bans that were stronger. So we also think he has the green light now to perhaps put more countries on the ban as well, as long as he raises some sort of a national security concern.
So what do you tell people who are concerned about the ban and concerned about Muslims in general? How do you square and get people to talk about, to get their fears alleviated?
Well, look, I'm saying that religious discrimination is not part of what the United States holds as a fundamental value, right? The United States, I think, that we all love, would not want a religious community to get discriminated or targeted. And so that's the concern that we're coming with. In terms of national security, having legitimate concerns, that is not a problem for us. We would love the U.S. to be safe, and we would hate any attacks to come to the United States. So the discussions on that, we're with you. In this case, we're focusing on the discrimination. It's more of a gut feel. I think deep down you can feel that this was something that was based in discrimination because he said it is.
Well, obviously it's a challenge to your community. We wish you luck in terms of alleviating the concerns you have in your community. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you so much.
So much. Arsalan Safiullah, I'm trying to get it just right. But
that's good enough.
That's good enough, okay. Thank you for coming in this morning. Good luck as you deal with this in your community.
All right, sir, thank you.
Still ahead.